Let's start off with the big story that we're following here in the world of sports betting and as it relates to college basketball. And we finally have some clarity here now on what is going on with Fresno State's basketball players. In case you caught our show last week, you may have learned that we had a betting scandal going on at Fresno State University, and now we have the details as well. Michael Robinson, who last played for the Bulldogs on January the 11th, and Jalen Weaver, who was suspended last Saturday and been removed from the roster. They're now being investigated by the school and the NCAA for potential violations surrounding wagering on the DFS app called Sleeper to score more than 11 points in a game against New Mexico on December the 31st. Weaver scored 13 points in the game. He also claimed he never bet against Fresno State. So naturally, we're going to investigate this more and find out what happened. But college athletes prohibited from wagering, especially on their own games and their player props as well. So needless to say, that's where we're at with Fresno State as they look to sort of pick up the pieces from this latest scandal. There was a trade in the National Football League this weekend ahead of the NFL draft. Ibo Samuel has a new home, and it is in Washington with the Commanders. The 49ers received a fifth-round pick, and Washington is going to pay out Ibo Samuel's contract, which is more than $20 million this coming season. So Debo plays alongside Terry McLaurin and added to that offense with Jaden Daniels next season. Meanwhile, Matthew Stafford has decided that he would like to stay in Los Angeles. He's doing a new deal with the Rams and will play for them and probably retire with them when he decides to hang it all up. So Stafford back with the Rams for this upcoming season. Meanwhile, on the PGA Tour, a very little-known player ended up winning a title again. This time, it was at the Cognizant Classic, and his name is Joe Highsmith. He is the first player since 2016 on the tour to make the cut on the number and win the championship. He's the second first-time winner in as many weeks. Brian Campbell won the Mexico Open last week. In the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers just keep on winning, and Luka Doncic participating in a very big way. 108-102, the final in the Battle of LA. This one with the Lakers and Clippers goes to the Lakers as they have now won 6 straight games, and they've covered the spread in 5 of them. There was even some jawing back and forth with Luka and James Harden in this one. Luka talked about the win after the game and how things are progressing.
I think just play the way we play, the way we both play, and, get other people involved. They're going to give you, depends on which coverage, take what the defense gave you, but it's just playing who we are.
You mentioned it's a chess match with the Clippers, but you're telling them to get up on you, getting too much space. Like, is it a little more with this team, given that you guys have such a history of playoff battles and regular season battles?
Maybe, obviously, we went back and forth a lot with the Clippers, and that's what I like. For me, that's fun, and that's how I get going, especially in the basketball court.
The nature of playing with Luka Doncic, and we knew this when we traded for him, and again, this is why you always have to be adaptable as a coach. The nature of playing with Luka Doncic is if you play drop coverage against him, you're going to die. So teams are going to red or they're going to blitz. We have to be better, and we're going to figure that out. It helps when you can play all shooting lineups. I'm not concerned about that.
In San Antonio, the Spurs are back home after a long road trip. They got to leave because of the rodeo, and it didn't go well for them in their first game back. Of course, Victor Wembanyama out for the season. The Thunder win against the Spurs. Final score 146-132. The big game of the night went to Jalen Daniels. He had 41 points. OKC is 49-11 on the season. Meanwhile, Donovan Mitchell didn't play last night for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it didn't matter. They win again. Cleveland's won 10 games in a row. They beat Portland in overtime 133-129. The Cavs are now 50-10 on the season, and what a great trade for Cleveland, acquiring DeAndre Hunter at the trade deadline. Kenny Atkinson, the head coach of the Cavs, talked about his performance last night.
Kenny, how good did you think DeAndre Hunter was? I know what the box score says, but how good did you think he was for you guys today?
I was just telling Kobe, everyone's going to talk about kind of the clutch shooting and the big threes, but I thought even, earlier on in the game when DG was struggling, like he just, like you've been saying in your blog or whatever the hell it is, what Substack, whatever, like he can go get his own a little bit, and he's got a 2 or 3 dribble pull up, and he carried us in every way. No way we get this win without him.
Boston Celtics keep on clicking. They beat the Denver Nuggets 110-103. despite another huge game for Nikola Jokic, 20 points, 14 boards, 9 assists. Jason Tatum had 16 and 11 in this one. The Celtics blew a 20-point lead against the Cavs Friday. They blew another lead against Denver last night, but Derek White and company were able to hang on and help them. White talked about his fourth quarter performance in the win.
I mean, most of the time I start the fourth and just try to be aggressive and pick my spots. I mean, I think each game's a little bit different, and you kind of just have to read it. But my teammates and the coaching staff really trust me, and so that kind of gives you the confidence to go out there and be aggressive and try to take and make some big shots. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big momentum shift. You get a steal. You're running in transition, hitting a three, getting a dunk, whatever it might be. The crowd gets going. I feel like it's just a big momentum shifter, and so just all those factors come together, and it's a big play for just the momentum purposes.
Over to college hoops, one of the hottest teams in the country remains Michigan State. They win again, beating 11th ranked Wisconsin 71-62. They've now won 5 straight games, and they have 24 on the season. There's 1 week to go in the regular season, and naturally at this point, the Spartans are favored to win the regular season title before the conference games come up in less than a week and a half from now. Tom Izzo, one of the candidates for Coach of the Year, without a doubt, has his team playing right at the right time.
Don't let me kid you. I mean, they're of course they're important, but the 11 one I never really thought about. You know, the other one everybody's been talking about. That would be a treat, because I always say that you want to be knocking on the door of championships. And if you keep knocking, sometime they're going to open. And, you know, I say that we've knocked on 7 other Final Fours, and the damn door doesn't open, you know. But we've been in the hunt we've lost a couple of Big Ten championships at home, you know. So getting 11 of them in 30 years would be something special, I guess. But I just want to keep getting better. We got to get better. We didn't get better today.
Illinois beat Michigan, with Michigan State winning. They're closing in on the conference title here in the regular season, 93-73. It was a rout as the Illini pick up the win. Also, Tennessee, with a last-second shot by Jemai Mashak, ended up getting the win. Tennessee beats Alabama 79-76. And congratulations to St. John's. They pick up their first outright Big East regular season title since 1985. 1985 with their win over Seton Hall. So they end up picking up the win there. In Major League Baseball, we got Grapefruit League action set to go here at 1 o'clock Eastern. There is a couple of injury news and notes to bring to you. The Atlanta Braves are going to be without their catcher, Sean Murphy. He has a cracked rib and is going to miss approximately 4 to 6 weeks, which would put him out for the beginning of the regular season. Also, MASN, the television network, has come to an agreement with both the Nationals and Orioles. It looks like the Nationals will finally have their broadcast rights back and are free to pursue additional broadcast rights independently in 2026. Welcome back to Newswire here on SportsGrid. Pat Evans is with us from Legal Sports Report as we get off to a good start with Pat this week. Pat, thanks for coming back here on Newswire. Great to catch up. Let's get into the latest in sports betting news. We start off with New York. Is it possible that while every other state is trying to copy New York and get that 51% tax on sports betting, is it possible that New York will actually lower their taxes? That's surprising to hear.
I mean, I suppose it's possible. Assemblywoman Carrie Warner, who does chair the Assembly's Gaming Committee, has introduced a bill that would increase the number of licenses for sportsbooks in New York from 9, the current 9, to up to 16. And with each kind of tier of more sports books, it would lower the tax rate from the current 51%, which of course is the largest in the country, and something that a lot of states are looking at, to your point, and saying, hey, let's kind of increase our taxes. We clearly can go up there, and obviously not every market is New York, so I think that's why you're seeing a lot of pushback there. But all the way down to 25% is what you could get with 16 sports books in New York. The question is, of course, well, what sports books could go there? I mean, we're already at 9 that are the biggest ones out there in the market. So, I mean, who are you really missing? That's one question there. And then, of course, the other question is, right now on the other side, on the Senate, Joseph Adabo's got a iCasino, online casino bill that would help bring in more tax revenue, which he says is needed because there's a significant deficit and the state needs more sustainable tax revenue. So you've got 2 chairs of the gaming committees on either side of the chambers and saying, let's do this kind of gaming legislation. One, to bring in more tax revenue. One, I guess you could argue if you have 16 operators, you could maybe bring in more tax revenue, or are you just spreading it among the other operators? Ultimately, 25% versus 51%, that's a huge difference. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting kind of session here to see if that moves at all. Interesting of note is Assemblywoman Warner said prior to the session, she hadn't heard from any operators asking to lower the tax rate. So, why enter this legislation to get this session started? So anyway, New York, to your point, yeah, a lot of states are looking at him envious of that 51% tax rate, and you got at least one lawmaker saying, hey, let's lower it.
All right, so we go from New York to the south here in Georgia, and some progress being made in the early part of this year. And now I'm reading the story here on LegalSportsReport.com, Pat. Seems like we're going the other way.
Yeah, Georgia, I mean, it is a very interesting market. We've talked about it a lot the last couple of years. They come close. They've got lots of bipartisan needs down there. You need, especially the way they're trying to do it with this through a constitutional amendment where you need 2/3 of the chambers. And Georgia's a very, purple state. So you've got lawmakers of all kinds that need to come together to do this. You've a lot of different things at work here. We had Senate bill to file the constitutional amendment introduced. It did not pass a Senate committee last week, which is kind of big news because there's a crossover deadline this week where it does have to cross over, chambers bills have to cross over to the other chamber. And that's where we're at right now. There is supposedly the talk that did not pass because it needs to be a bill that's friendly to the House. And so they didn't think the Senate, members that voted against this didn't think it was friendly to the House, or the House would be friendly to this bill. So we've heard that Rep. Marcus Widower, I can't say his name apparently, will be introducing a bill this week, a similar bill, but one that is more friendly to the House, or the House is more friendly to, and then we'll see if that can rush through the House this week. That would be your hope, I guess, in Georgia. And if it doesn't, then there is one other hope that we saw a couple years ago when no bills crossed over, but a bill was hijacked. It was funnily enough to make a regional Georgia soapbox derby, the soapbox derby of Georgia. They hijacked that to put sports betting language in. It didn't go anywhere from there. So yeah, Georgia's just one of those interesting states that we've been pretty high on the last couple of years because it did seem like there was plenty of momentum. I think the latest University of Georgia poll has 63% of Georgians want sports betting. That's a pretty significant majority. So it is one of those states that you're like, okay, we've got a lot of momentum here. You've had a couple lawmakers put out op-eds the last couple of months saying this is time to get it done. Georgians want this. We're behind, we're falling behind. And so that's where we're at in Georgia. Kind of similar status as we've seen in Minnesota. Again, one of those states that we thought has been a potential shoo-in the last couple of years and hasn't been able to get it done. And this year, right away, although it started with high hopes with a full committee of, lawmakers coming together and saying, let's get it done. Didn't happen. In Hawaii, I know you guys talked about on Friday, kind of a dark horse that came in and got to the House floor, but a Senate committee voted it down, leaving that up in the air. A lot of these states that are left, I mean, we had that huge after PASPA flood of kind of low-hanging fruit, or states that we knew were going to get it done, and now we're left with the states that are really struggling to get it done. And I think even if we have high hopes for them, the ones that haven't gotten it done for a reason. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at in Georgia, just a roadblock of sorts of some lawmakers just saying we don't want this done. Very similar to what we're seeing in Texas as well. So do any states get it done this year? I think Georgia still has a small chance, but for the most part, no, I don't think we'll see any more get done this year.
Well, all right. Well, that's where we're at there. And in Michigan, there's more cease and desist for offshore sportsbooks. I have not even heard of this sportsbook before. I mean, those common names for the offshore sportsbooks, Pat, not surprised. I guess I'm a little surprised here because I hadn't even heard of this until I read about your article.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Michigan is just, I guess, going to the full depths of online sports betting to pull out these sports books. It sent a cease and desist last week to betnow.eu, which, yeah, again, I haven't heard of. We've got plenty of regulated options here in Michigan, so I think that's the idea, is you just make sure those are the only options. And at this point, the Michigan Gaming Control Board has sent more than a dozen cease and desist letters. It kicked it all off last spring for Bovada, which we've seen dozens of states take action against, and now Bovada's pulled out of all those states. And it's kind of been interesting to see other states follow Michigan's lead in this. Michigan's been a leader too. I mean, Governor Gretchen Whitmer put money in the budget last year to fight illegal gambling operations. Henry Williams, the executive director of the Michigan Gambling Control Board, has asked the federal government for help. He led the kind of charge from a group of regulators asking for that. And yeah, I mean, this is something that Michigan is kind of taking pride in and charging, making sure that the illegal market is not robust here, and making sure people know they're gambling responsibly, legally, and in the light. And that's, I guess, his job, and he's making sure he's doing it. So there you have it in Michigan. And then, of course, to note, I think, is this month is Responsible Gambling Awareness Month, or Problem Gambling Awareness Month. So just to make note of that, and to make sure everybody's, gambling responsibly.
Yeah, and we'll, I'm sure, check in later in the week on more of those stories. It'll be a big month for sports bettors and a great month to focus on that, Pat, because if you don't bet responsibly on the NCAA tournament, you're gonna have to. I know everyone goes to Vegas usually. Those are the old days. You get, go to Vegas, wake up at 9 a.m. You're betting all the way through midnight for a couple of days. But here at SportsGrid, it's one of the biggest months for us of the calendar year, and I'm sure it is for you guys too. Thanks again, Pat, for coming on Newswire. I really appreciate it.
Thanks as always, Craig.